Tonight, when you lie down, your brain will betray you. You will close your eyes. The room will go dark. And then, without warning, the thoughts will start. Not peaceful thoughts, not the kind that drift you gently towards sleep, the kind that drag you back to a conversation you had 6 years ago or a decision you still haven't made, or a version of tomorrow that hasn't happened yet and probably never will. You've tried to stop it. Everyone has. And yet it keeps happening night after night, in bed after bed, in every city on every continent, to every kind of person who has ever existed. So what if this isn't a flaw? What if your racing nighttime mind is one of the oldest survival systems your species ever built? Here's what's actually going on. Your brain runs on two very different operating modes. During the day, when you're active and focused, a network called the task-positive network takes charge. It locks your attention onto whatever's in front of you. A screen, a conversation, a problem. It narrows your focus like a spotlight. But the moment that spotlight goes dark, something else turns on. Neuroscientist Marcus Racheli at Washington University discovered this in 2001, almost by accident. He noticed that certain regions of the brain didn't quiet down when people stopped doing tasks. They became more active. He called this the default mode network. Most people have never heard of it. But it's running inside you right now, and it runs even harder at night. The default mode network is your brain's background processor. It handles memory consolidation, future simulation, social reasoning, and self-reflection. In other words, it does everything that feels like overthinking. It is not a malfunction. It is the system doing exactly what it was designed to do. The problem is the timing. During the day, your environment constantly interrupts it. A notification, a voice, a task. The task-positive network slaps the default mode network back down before it can spiral. But at night, in the dark, in the silence, there's nothing to interrupt it. So it runs free. And it runs deep. This is why the thought that never bothered you at noon can feel catastrophic at midnight. It's the same thought. But at midnight, the default mode network has been handed the entire stage. Here's where it gets stranger. Anthropologist David Sampson at the University of Toronto has spent years studying sleep across species. When he looked at the way modern humans sleep versus our closest evolutionary relatives, he found something surprising. We sleep less than almost any other primate. A chimpanzee sleeps around 10 hours a night, mostly high in a tree, in a secure nest, with a small trusted group nearby. You sleep, on average, around 7, often less, often alone, often on the ground, in an enclosed box, surrounded by artificial light until minutes before you close your eyes. For 100,000 years, that was not the setting. For most of human prehistory, nighttime was not safe. When the sun went down, the landscape changed. Predators that were manageable during the day became near invisible in darkness. Fire could only protect a small perimeter. The people around you were the only buffer between you and whatever was moving in the dark. In that world, a brain that fully powered down at night was a liability. A brain that stayed partially alert, that kept running threat assessments, that ran through unresolved problems while the body rested, that was an asset. It kept you alive. Sleep researcher Matthew Walker at UC Berkeley describes this as one of the deepest tensions in human neurobiology. The brain needs sleep to consolidate memory and repair itself. But the brain also evolved in an environment where sleep made you vulnerable. The result is a nervous system caught between two competing biological mandates. Rest, stay alert. What plays out between your sheets every night is that ancient tension. And here's the part nobody talks about. The thoughts that most reliably keep you awake are not random. Research by Edie Ben-Simon, also at the Walker Sleep Lab, found that the brain regions most active during sleepless nights are specifically the ones responsible for anticipating threats and social judgment. Your amygdala, your medial prefrontal cortex, the parts of you that ask, what if this goes wrong? And what do people think of me? That is not anxiety talking. That is your threat detection system doing a nightly audit. It is scanning through everything unresolved, every conversation that ended badly, every plan that hasn't been confirmed, every relationship that felt slightly off. It is doing this because for hundreds of thousands of years, unresolved threats at nightfall were the most dangerous kind. In the savannah, you didn't get a second chance to fix a broken alliance at dawn. So the brain learned to process those things in the dark. It learned to rehearse, to replay, to simulate outcomes, to plan contingencies, all while the body stayed still. What you experience as anxious overthinking is the simulation engine running without a destination. It is trying to resolve something that modern life often won't let it resolve. You can't repair the friendship right now. The meeting hasn't happened yet. The decision has no clean answer. So the system loops. It runs the scenario again and again. Looking for a resolution it can file away. Looking for safety. There's a word for this in clinical psychology: hyperarousal. It's one of the primary mechanisms behind chronic insomnia, but hyperarousal isn't a disorder that emerged from nowhere. It's an evolved state that got miscalibrated. The volume is wrong. The trigger sensitivity is wrong. But the underlying system is ancient and, in its original context, extraordinarily useful. Psychologist Roxane Silver at UC Irvine spent years studying how people mentally process traumatic and stressful events. One of her consistent findings was that intrusive nighttime thoughts are not the brain's failure to let go. They are the brain's attempt to integrate, to make the event make sense, to find a place to put it. The mind churns not because it is broken, but because it hasn't finished yet. And here's the detail that changes how you see everything. If you look at sleep studies on hunter-gatherer societies today, groups like the Hadza of Tanzania or the San of the Kalahari, you find that they don't describe the same kind of catastrophic nighttime rumination that modern people report. Not because their lives are easier, they are not, but because their unresolved problems tend to be genuinely resolvable. Food was or wasn't found today. The rain came or it didn't. The relationship tension in the group was addressed directly and immediately, the way humans did for nearly all of our history, in face-to-face conversation before the fire went cold. The modern mind, by contrast, is full of problems that have no clear resolution window. An email you can't send until morning, a performance review that's weeks away, a relationship in a different city, a career question that might take years to answer. The default mode network keeps running these scenarios not because it is dramatic, but because it never received the signal that the problem is handled. So it stays open. It stays on. It does its job. The next time you lie down and your brain refuses to go quiet, notice what it reaches for. It will almost certainly be something unresolved, something that needs a response you can't give right now, something your ancestors would have dealt with before sleeping. Your brain at night is not broken. It is prehistoric. It is thorough. It is loyal to a version of the world that no longer exists, doing everything it can to protect a version of you that is trying very hard to simply get some sleep. Tonight, when you lie down, your brain will betray you. But now you know. It isn't betrayal. It never was. It's the oldest kind of love your nervous system knows how to give. Restless, relentless, ancient. Still watching the dark, still keeping you alive.